Hi again, this is Professor Innes, and you are on your 8th module for this course, and we are still in the field of epistemology, and we are asking questions about knowledge. Is there such thing as certain knowledge? And if there is, how do we come about that certain knowledge? So that's the fundamental question we have here, and it's not just relevant in philosophy, it's also relevant in the big wide world. You're going to, again, I've mentioned a few times that we're approaching the general election of next year, and you're going to have lots of people making political statements, thinking those statements are true, valid, therefore certain beyond doubt, whereas really they're just opinions. I mean, we could, as philosophers, look at them and say, yes, I respect your opinion, but really, just an opinion. You prefer the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, but saying that the Republicans have got it right or the Democrats have got it right is just an opinion. How do you measure which is the right political argument? So with our discussion of epistemology, we've got those knowledge problems. Now, we've discussed Descartes, and he has this understanding that we reject all sense experience and use mathematics and all the extension of mathematics to come about with an estimation or a measurement of knowledge. Locke came along afterwards and said, right, we cannot reject sense experience because that's all we've got to rely upon. Therefore, we'll use sense experience, but only in a limited sense. A limited sense being that, unfortunately, we're going to use this sense experience, but it's only going to come up with probable knowledge. Now, Berkeley is coming along now, and he doesn't even look towards Descartes. He looks at Locke, and he rejects Locke's argument. So we could see Berkeley's position as just a rejection, well, not just, but it is a very strong rejection of John Locke's empiricism. Now, we can refer to this empiricism, as it says in the book, as realism. By realism, they are referring to it in a materialist sense, that Locke argues that there are things out there in the world which are material in nature, and the properties of that matter have attached to them, the material has attached to them the properties. So therefore, when you look at the chair, it's a material matter, and it has attached to it the properties of having legs, the seat, and so forth and so on. Like with the car, that is matter, and it has attached to it the properties of wheels, steering wheel, windows, and so forth and so on. So, in a sense, according to Locke, there's a real world out there. It's a material world which exists, and we can, to a great extent, rely upon its existence for the claims of knowledge. Now, Berkeley comes along and considers this to be absolute nonsense, because what Locke has done, he has looked at both the primary and secondary qualities and said here, right, the primary qualities of a length, figure, and shape are certain, and thereafterwards, when we look at the secondary qualities of taste and smell and so forth, the five qualities he mentions, he says they're not certain. Yet what Berkeley has noticed is that we notice, or we gain our knowledge through these five senses, so therefore when we smell the rose, we gain that through the smell of the rose as a scent. That's a sense experience. The colour of the rose as well is gained through a sense experience. Now, if we're holding the sense experience in doubt, and that is through which we gain our knowledge of the primary quality, then we must therefore hold the primary quality in doubt as well. We must therefore say that the whole thing, which is all wrapped up with primary and secondary qualities, is to be held in doubt. We can't say that the secondary qualities are held in doubt, but the primary qualities are perfectly fine, because they're wrapped together. We can't see one without the other, therefore we can't see the primary quality without the secondary qualities. It's intellectually impossible to even imagine us seeing the primary quality without seeing it through the secondary quality. So Berkeley has absolutely and totally rubbished John Locke's argument. He's doing this because he's noticed there to be a big problem. So his solution, if we can call it a solution, is to come along and say here that knowledge is an idea in the mind, and fair enough, we would like to have that idea in the mind as a true reflection of what exists out there in the big wide world, independent of the mind. But at this stage, all we can do is make statements that what you're seeing, what you're smelling, is an idea in the mind. Yes, it's stimulated by the external world, but we've got no guarantees that external world is what we have in the mind or represented in the mind. So we've got big problems. So that's why we come up with the word idealism. It's an idea in the mind. And all knowledge are sets of ideas in the mind, without there being any guarantee at this stage anyway that the idea represents that external world. So that's Berkeley totally rejecting John Locke's argument and coming up with that argument for idealism. Examples of idealism would be that I see lots of objects, or I perceive, I should say, lots of objects out in the world. I therefore generate ideas of them in my mind, and I come up with knowledge claims. The one I mention often to emphasize, well, I'll stick with the standard one to start with. I'll do that one here, which is the tree falling down in the forest. You've heard it a million times. It's part of our popular culture reference here. So, you know, if nobody is in that forest to hear the tree falling down, then can you claim that tree is making a noise? And we go even further. Can you actually claim that it has fallen down? Because according to the idealist argument, unless there's somebody, some sentient object with a mind, perceiving the tree falling down, then it has neither fallen down nor made a noise when fallen down. If we go along the next day and there is the tree lying down on the ground, and nobody has seen that tree lying on the ground, all we can say is that there is a tree lying on the ground. We can't say it's a fallen tree. Locke, who has the presumption that the world exists somewhat, certainly independent of the mind, would say it's a fallen tree. That I am, for all intents and purposes, going to assume that the tree has fallen the other day, and therefore calling it a fallen tree. With Berkeley, if there's nobody there to perceive the tree falling down, then they can't call it a fallen tree. It's just a tree lying down on the ground. So, our knowledge claims are therefore, according to the idealists, well and truly restricted. They're more an opinion than knowledge claims. So that's the tree example. You know, if nobody's there to see it falling down or hear it falling down, then it's neither made a noise nor even fallen down in the first place. So we've got big problems about knowledge, according to Berkeley. Now, Berkeley is not going to, in any circumstances, just going to leave the situation at this level, at this point, sorry. He's going to try and bring forward a remedy to this situation. So his remedy, as you've noticed, is that of God. God, according to Bishop George Berkeley, is all-seeing, all-powerful. So he's seeing everything at all times. He's got an idea of the tree falling down in the forest in his mind, and also the noise in his mind. So, in that sense, if God's perceiving something at all times, then that tree has actually fallen down. And the fact that it's there afterwards, and you haven't seen it falling down, means that somebody has perceived it. The existence, the continuous existence of the external world is therefore proven, according to Bishop George Berkeley. So that's his argument, that's his position, as far as we are concerned. But, of course, there are problems with this position. Has Berkeley actually proved the existence of God in the first place? It's the same with Descartes. Did Descartes prove the existence of God in the first place? When he came up with his analytical truth for the existence of God? Here, there's no analytical truth for the existence of God. It is simply claiming that the world continues. We have noticed the world continue, and it's continued without our say-so. We haven't perceived it, and therefore there must be a God. So this type of argument strikes us as being what we refer to in philosophy as a circular argument, similar to Descartes' circular argument, that we perceive something and then we put the attribute of that evidence to being the conclusion. Therefore God exists because God exists. It's a peculiar argument. We have got to reject it. So in that way, Berkeley has done us a favour in critiquing Locke's argument, so we could definitely use it as a critique of Locke's argument, but I don't know if he's provided us with a solution and therefore proven to us that there is the existence of knowledge, external knowledge of the mind, which we can therefore rely upon at all times. I don't think he's done this. I can't say he hasn't done it. I can't say he has. We're in a problematic area once again. So that's John Locke. So that's Bishop George Berkeley's argument as we're going to see it. And the example I would put forward in our popular understanding is the controversy with Carl's Jr. advertisements. We have the situation that lots of people find those advertisements to be incredibly offensive. But are they offensive? Is it not the case that just a group of disjointed images put together? And if you think they're offensive, then it's offensive in your mind. It's not offensive out there in the material world. Therefore, I wouldn't ban these advertisements because you find them offensive. Can it be the case that this is a universal consideration that they're offensive? Therefore, if I find them offensive, then everybody else is going to find them offensive. Now, if Berkeley's argument has failed, therefore we haven't proven the existence of God. Now, if we did prove the existence of God, we could therefore say God would find this offensive, obviously, and we have to find out that he does find them offensive, and therefore we could ban the advertisements. But there's no universal out there saying that they are offensive, therefore we can't ban them by saying they're offensive. As simple as that. So that's why we still have the Carl's Jr. advertisements on the television, even though we can quite see why they're offensive, but proving them to be offensive is another matter. So this will be part of your journal entry, this type of reasoning. So you're going to look for 3 examples. So in your journal entry, look for 3 examples where knowledge. So here it is. You can find 3 examples of knowledge that the idealist would hold in doubt. So look for 3 examples of knowledge that the idealist would hold in doubt. I'll say that once more. Look for 3 examples of knowledge that the idealist would hold in doubt. So that's the situation there. If you want me to send you an email to clarify that one, please let me know. Perfectly fine in doing so. So here, again, don't use the Carl's Jr. advertisement. You've got to find your own here. So you're not stuck with things like cups being held in doubt, or I don't know, that car outside being held in doubt. You can talk about moral things, political things, size of objects. Lots of people say certain objects are large, and other people say they're not large. So relativism becomes a pretty strong point here, whereby we tend to lose objectivity, or even the notion of universal acceptance, because relatively speaking, things exist in relation to each other, so therefore we can't say that one is big and the other one is small in a universal sense. They're only big or small in relation to others. So you can look out there and think about the difficulties we've had in estimating the size of objects or whatever, or moral considerations, political considerations. So that's your journal entry to put forward today. Remember, don't put forward your reply until I have answered, replied to your initial reply, which is the general understanding of George Berkeley. This is the reply to my reply. Okay, so I've spoken for a long time on this. It is a complex aspect of epistemology, namely George Berkeley, and it was necessary for me to do so. So good luck with everything. Bye.